Level-wise, to get into Sup Surfing, you don't need to be an absolute rock star, but you do need some sort of key fundamentals really. And a lot of that comes around, can you paddle the type of board that you're going to be paddling in a surf environment? So realistically, it needs to be able to paddle a board of sort of 12 foot or below, hold in a straight line, and then also have some manoeuvrability. So paddling a bit of a surf stance, move back and forward to trim the board, but that could happen pretty quickly. The most important bit is you can paddle at a high enough level that you have awareness of the environment around you. So if you're totally focused on what you're doing to paddle or stay on the board, that's going to limit you in terms of being externally focused. And that's the environment, so actually waves you're trying to catch and getting in and out, but then also other people. So if you can paddle really well on flat water on that side of the board and you're focused on what's going on around you rather than on the paddling, you're probably not far off. At that stage, a bit of basic tuition should see you be able to get involved in it pretty quickly.
If you're learning, just give yourself space, try and go where it's quieter. Think about your ability and not trying to test yourself too much too soon and build yourself up slowly so you're just not unsafe in the water. I think we've all got a responsibility to be safe in the water, and I think that's really, really important.
Before going to a new location, there's definitely some basics you need to cover, and mostly that's looking at the forecast itself. That's the kind of like the wind and weather forecast, but also what the surf's going to do. Also checking any tide forecast that you can get for the location would be really key. Now those basics that you cover before you go are really good, but they're not as good as having that information plus some detailed local knowledge. So once you get there, it's worth trying to find out that information. And if you do, that just means that there might be something really specific about a certain level of tide you need to be aware of, a certain hazard you need to be careful of, or anything else in the local vicinity in terms of launching or landing or any other details. The
environment we're paddling in potentially is continuously changing from day to day, hour to hour. So I'd always recommend go to a lifeguarded beach, speak to the lifeguards on duty that day. They're sat there, every day, 8 hours a day. They have really good knowledge on the local conditions.
To get out safely through the surf for the first time, part of it's just waiting and watching. So seeing what's going on. So in terms of, is there a gap in the sets? Is there a better place to paddle out? Where are you aiming for? What are you going to do? Once you kind of got that nailed and you launch for the first time, it's just building a bit of technique. So there's a couple of different ways in terms of getting out. It might be to begin with, you even head out prone or on your knees. And in smaller surf, that'll work. Over time, you're looking to take white water or waves standing up. And it's being able to build up the skills to go into a surf stance to paddle over white water, so you can actually change the trim of the board, and also some short, sharp strokes to build up speed. Using your paddle as a brace will make a massive difference. So in terms of punching up and over white water, using your paddle afterwards to keep yourself braced on the board will build that skill. Wave-wise, there's different types, and actually different types will suit different levels and different boards, and it depends what you want out of it really. Initially, size is going to be a massive thing. So 1 to 2 foot is probably great to start off with. And then over time, you'll get a feel for what you prefer and what conditions you like to go out in. In terms of spilling waves, so kind of crumbly waves or kind of dumping waves or pitching waves, to begin with, probably something that's fairly shallow shelving that's spilling might make it a little bit harder to get out back for the first time, but actually it's going to give you a much easier takeoff and make the whole thing probably a little bit easier to start with and a slightly longer ride. Pitchier waves or kind of steeper waves, that's what you might look to grow into over time, again depending on what type of sup surfer you get into or what sort of kit you decide to use.
Well, my personal feeling on surf etiquette for anyone in the water is give people plenty of respect, give them plenty of space. Everyone's got a right to be out there. If you're catching waves, whoever's closest to the peak sort of has right of way. If you're stuck on the inside, you make sure you go towards the white water to give people the opportunity to surf the green part of the wave. Speak to the lifeguards, get their sort of perspective and experience on things, and the main thing is just make sure you're safe in the water, make sure other people are safe in the water, and give people that respect.
So knowing what the basic rules are in terms of who takes off first, who gets the wave, coming and going out is pretty critical. And if you know those and you respect those, even if sometimes you get it wrong and hold your hand up, depending on level, you're going to get on just fine with the people around you. when people pitch up and they don't know those rules, and normally it's through ignorance rather than anything else, that's when you have the arguments in the lineup, and that's when you have the arguments in the car park. So just knowing a few basic etiquette rules will mean you have a much better time, and it's a much more harmonious atmosphere in the lineup.
It doesn't matter if it's a 4-foot wave or a 2-foot wave, you can still catch plenty of waves, have loads of fun, and you don't always need to be where all the other people are. I think that's the beauty of stand-up paddleboarding, I think.
You hear a lot about rips and rips pulling people out to see and what they do, but effectively a rip is where water is exiting back out of a bay. So where there's surf pushing into a bay, that the water's got to go out somewhere, and it'll funnel its way back out. And normally it will do that by going straight away from the shore. You can spot it by seeing where the waves aren't breaking. So sometimes it's the most appealing bit to paddle out in or end up in because it keeps you away from the surf. And there is an advantage to it once you've hit a certain skill level, but actually there's a massive danger factor to it because that water's flowing directly out, not along the shore, it will take you straight out. And there's elements of, there's better ways to get out of the rip in terms of paddling across rather than against, but actually understanding where they are for the first time from a launching landing point of view is pretty key. Once you've built up experience, they're quite easy to spot. Before that, that's why you talk to a lifeguard really, and they'll be able to give you the best advice of where to launch, land, and where those rips are and what challenges they're going to give you on the day.
People can get out of depth very quickly. It can take you away from where you want to be. The main thing is to really not panic. If you've got a bodyboard or a flotation device that's keeping you up, stay with that. Make sure you stay on top of that because you're obviously more visible. You wave one hand in the air, wave for assistance, and the main thing is not to panic. If you are sort of a strong swimmer, you can try and swim parallel or at an angle to get out of the rip. But the main thing is just to not panic and fight your instincts and stay as visible as you can and stay afloat.